everybody. Welcome to episode 58 of Tactical Crouch, competitive Overwatch podcast that, gets increasingly less competitive as the weeks go by. So, we're getting it. We got a special guest this week. Of course, I am with Yiska and Joe, but the real man of the hour here, Sideshow, coming from the Fusion House this week.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we've been posting out. I've been allowed inside finally, which is a development in my in my expansions over at Philly. But yeah, we've been doing a bunch of content out of here, so that's where I'm joining you from.
As we will see in your power rankings of last season, you never really spiritually left the treehouse, of course, ranking Philly very high.
It's true. I had a large bias last in the power rankings towards who actually did well in the playoffs last year. Now, that didn't come true even slightly. But there's a world in which it came true. We just don't happen to be inhabiting it.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's the new Doctor Strange sequel is actually the one where the Fusion plays top three.
Yeah,
because I had them there
looked
too.
Into all of the futures. There was about 5 in which the Fusion made top 3 or wherever I placed them.
He looks over at Iron Man and he's like, 5.
This many.
5. Yeah. Multiverse power rankings. There they are. Well, thanks again for being on the show. We've had you on a few times, so you know the drill. You've been here before.
I do. I always love the music. I didn't dance to it this time though, because I'm increasing my professionalism levels.
Yeah. That's great to hear.
Very good.
I'm sure the Overwatch League will be very happy.
Wait, what's Brent fired? Is that what he's saying? Are you just going to...
No, Brent's actually just getting worse as the off-season goes on, so I have to make up for both of us. So I have to double my...
Fair.
Yeah.
He was starting to infect me, with a laissez-faire attitude towards things, so I got to buckle down.
Fair enough. We've got a really fun show for you guys this week, so we're going to be doing 2 different things. The first thing is, of course, we're going to talk about a ton of new changes in the Overwatch League, trades, free agency, all that stuff. But then we actually promised that we would go back and look at our Season 2 power rankings, see how they fared, and also take a moment to really call out all the jerks about our power rankings who made us sweat and cry over those rankings. Until they turned out to be totally wrong. We literally have almost 30 comments here of people who were just like, I disagree with this for great reason 1, 2, and 3.
The synergy.
Yeah, they were just out there. We're gonna take some time, have some fun with those, and then also have some fun with each other. I believe, Yiska, you can't even refer to Joe as Joe right now, huh?
Oh, stop.
Not wrong.
Not wrong at all.
Yeah.
What is the context of this? Is this a Lord bet that went wrong?
Yeah, I lost Lord bet.
Okay,
for whatever reason, thought that betting that Chengdu would place below both the Florida Mayhem and the Houston Outlaws was a sufficient bet to make.
I did think that was a wild bet when you first took it, and even I thought the Chengdu Hunters were going to be absolutely abominable this season, and I still didn't think they'd be above Florida and Houston.
And thus, the Lord spoke light.
So we're going to be doing a little bit of that. Before we do, few pieces of housekeeping. If you are watching it live, hey, thanks for being here. You guys are awesome. Larger than normal crowd. It's what the people want. We bring Sideshow on the show. The people come. They come and witness. So great. Thanks for being on the show, Sideshow.
I bring my little viewbot army with me,
Yeah.
Nobody actually wants to watch me. I just pay many, many different people to be able to follow me around and just post random things in the chat. That's why the quality of the people in chat is so much worse than normal, if you notice.
We do say our subs have the highest IQ of any, little competitive Overwatch little clique.
Really?
Yeah.
And they
just
believe
to
that?
them, though. Yeah. No, they're great. So, of course, now we have people priming and people calling each other bitches. We're on a roll already. So, anyways, thanks for tuning in live. We do record live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So definitely tune in here at KickedTripod. You can also support the show at Patreon at patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. We're 100% supported by fans. So if you sub on Twitch or go over to Patreon, we've got some cool perks there, including a game night tomorrow and Saturday. We've got some cool perks. So go there, check it out, support the show. Otherwise, just thanks for being here, hanging out, and listening. Sweet. Let's talk about some of these movements. So, league movements this week. We've got some interesting ones.
Got some big ones.
I think the bit I just lost my entire monitor. Okay, there it goes to come back. I just about had a heart attack.
Gotta love when that happens.
Jeez, that's never happened. We'll just go down no particular order here. Since we're in the Fusion house, Fusion part ways with Neptuno. Sad face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad emoji. Let me pull up her graphics. We have a really fancy little graphics generator, courtesy of Eric P2EEEE in chat. Made us a wonderful graphic thing where we can kind of see the state of the Philadelphia Fusion. Neptuno gone. Still have Elk and Boombox, though, as far as we know. Boombox still under contract. Elk still under team option, I guess is what you would say. Neptuno, though, I mean, Yiska, what's your take on this? Neptuno, good move for the Fusion / do you see him finding another slot in an Overwatch League team soon?
So it very much depends on who Fusion will slot into that. I expect it to be a Korean player because I think season 1 there was definitely no debate that Neptuno was a top 3 Western main support, and of course the main support role potentially more limited to language skills than other roles because shot calling is a lot of shot calling is had there. So we will have to see who they slot in for that. For Neptuno himself, I think it's sort of rough, especially because his LFT post came so late, which made me believe that maybe he's a little bit late to the party. I'm not sure. And especially a lot of Western teams seem to have already held a lot of the tryouts. So it will be hard, I think. But generally, I still think he probably is an upgrade over already signed main supports on some of these teams. And, well, you can also argue, of course, that he has amazing drive, right? Like in the way that he played through illness and whatnot. I will also say, I think whatever impression teams had of him, I don't think it's fair at all to judge people on how they behaved in the Philadelphia Fusion, because the environment was just I think conclusive towards behavior that it's not overly negative what's being said anyway. So I think Western teams specifically should be looking at him, certainly.
Yeah, I think Neptuno is a huge pickup for a bunch of different teams who are looking to have English-speaking supports. I mean, outside of a few people that are already god tier level supports, like your Masters, your Big Gooses, these kind of people that can also speak English, I think Neptuno should be right up there. I was really surprised actually that the Houston Outlaws re-signed Boink instead of going for somebody like Neptuno. I just don't see the logic behind that even slightly. I can't think of a world in which that signing makes sense personally.
I think the argument is that his Lucio is not up to par.
Neptuno's?
I've seen represented.
Neptuno was originally a Lucio player, and I don't think that Boink's Lucio is particularly impressive either. I think Neptuno actually has very good mechanical skills on heroes. What I think Neptuno would be best with is a coach that can properly draw it out of him. He's certainly a player that knows how he wants to play and has a strong opinion on how the game should be played as well. But if you pair him with the right coach and put him in a leadership position in a team, I think you'd see that team do very well. I think it was part of the reason why Philly did so well in their first year, but also, the kind of headstrong manner might have been, part of but there was a lot of headstrong people on the Philadelphia Fusion. The team itself was full of incredible individual talent. They had a lot of potential, but the issues with the team were, they couldn't really find a system to make all of that fit together.
I'm seeing the comment in chat, Boink is nowhere near as expensive. I don't think that's true. Simply because Neptuno is now a free agent, so there is no buyout. And you can offer a player that's not getting other offers, which I don't know, which I'm guessing, whatever you want, right? Like if the player wants to play, just give him a bonus based on placements or something like that, and he will have drive. And I think you could just pay him just as much as Boink, or
I totally agree. And also, I think people always forget that the Philadelphia Fusion were the last team to be able to be created in the Overwatch League because they came in last, and they signed a bunch of players that had no previous offers. Guys like EQ or Neptuno at the time weren't going to be in the Overwatch League until they came to Philadelphia Fusion. So the idea that Philadelphia Fusion's players would already be on really high salaries, I think, is like a nonsense argument, especially when you look at the fact that he presumably didn't renegotiate at the beginning of last year. I actually don't know. They kind of fucked up the contract status of it, right? They originally listed him as a free agent, then they listed him as team option. So it's hard to tell what was really going on there.
Yeah, true.
I wouldn't imagine that he was on some kind of ridiculous salary to even begin with.
Does Boston just swoop him up and slap him in the roster now? I mean, we'll get to their movement as well, but I mean, that seems like a good fit, and it would kind of go along with the whole Kraft Group, move of just taking some of the best free agents and just slap them in your roster. I think, like you said, it's not necessarily super expensive to sign a free agent, and it looks like Boston is going to be in the market for somebody. Do you think that they make a play?
I think that's a team that could definitely be a decent pick. There's a few teams that still are looking for main support players, and Boston would certainly be one of them. The question is whether or not they think that they have like preconceived notions about how Neptuno would fit within their team environment. I think if they were to actually give him a chance, I think Neptuno would fit in incredibly well. But because of his status within the league already, because he's already had success and because he's like a leadership figure and stuff, I think there's Boston likes to really mold new players out of absolutely nothing.
What about Justice? I mean, I don't think we have a flex support really on Justice right now.
Main support.
Yeah, I mean they're still in the building phase.
Lots of movement there. I mean, I don't think that they're grabbing any of the supports from Gladiators.
Arc is a free agent, but you don't know if they're going to re-sign him, right? Like it's possible that they might re-sign him. He was just looking for different options. And Arc is always still going to be a good pickup for a team like Washington if they're intending on bringing back some of their Korean players. As it looks, they probably aren't going to be bringing back any of the Korean players that are actually there, right? I think they've already let go of all of them, haven't they? Are any of them still on the roster? I haven't
other than Arc, no.
Right, and Arc isn't as well. Like he's a free agent that they could re-sign. Right. So it's possible that they don't need the bilingual status of Arc.
The only people under contract right now for Justice are Corey, Elivote, Lulsish, and Stratus.
Yeah, and then they just signed Raw, right, as well.
Yeah. So that's brand new from today.
Yeah. So I guess Raw is the Korean player that Arc might be interested to work alongside. But I think Neptuno would be a good fit there. We also, there's a ton of teams that we also don't really know what their plans are. And presumably some of them are going Anglophone. Like, it's not like there aren't enough Korean players to make very good Korean teams out of all 20 teams in the league. So there are some teams certainly that he would be able to fit into really well.
Most definitely.
Yeah. All right. We got more though. And this is a big one. Boston Uprising have parted ways with Kelix, Aim God, RCK, Persia, and Stellar. Who's the one I'm missing?
Alamau.
Thank you.
Alamau.
I think his name's pronounced Alamon. but I love.
No offense.
I like LMAO.
like the meme with the alien. It's just excellent.
Yeah. So, anyways, now I'm not going to pronounce their name again on the show, so we don't have to worry about it. So that is, that's basically Boston's cleaning house here, right?
Basically.
Yes. Yeah. I think the move is just to get their team options out as quickly as possible, just to be able to then sign free agents, right?
Yep.
And to make moves on the market potentially early, at least. And it's certainly a testament to them not being really satisfied with how the season went.
You don't say.
Shocking.
They went from third best to third worst. That's a catastrophe. I wonder whether it says something, because Boston Uprising are a very interesting case study, I think, certainly coming towards into 2020, because they have this very much farm team mentality where they go for players that other people were overlooking. And I don't want to say they moneyball it, because I don't know what research they actually put into these players. I think it's more of like Huck's gut, if you want to use that as the opposite of moneyball, I suppose. It's like the very old school approach to it. But they had one season where they went incredibly well. They picked up guys like Note, they picked up guys like Striker, who nobody else was going for, and ended up being fantastic pickups. And then this year they picked up people who, again, nobody was really looking at, people like Blase and Color Hex, and Fusions, I suppose, as well, Persia. And although some of them seem like decent payoffs, like I still think that Color Hex has potential. They were talking about the leadership of Blase and Fusions. They seem like okay players. The team as a whole just absolutely was a dumpster fire. So if you're looking at having that kind of low budget approach to 2020, you got to look at Boston and think, oh, this can go one of two ways. And I think it's most likely to go the way that Boston went this year. I think they had a freakishly good year in 2018.
100%.
Yeah, I think we've kind of said we're a little bit more skeptical on the Boston process. I think on this show, as I think many people may like us to. We'll discuss that later in the show, by the way.
Yes, we will.
We will get to that. But yeah, Yiska.
No, let's talk about that because I think, Sideshow, you made that video, right? With Boston sold the Golden Goose. I think we have a very good argument, in that, no.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you need a transcendent coaching talent to be able to spot those kind of players in the first place, and to be able to actually mine the potential out of them, right? Because the guys like, I think there was potential. If you had, let's run the thought experiment of Boston still have Krusty in 2019. What are they really able to make out of this team? I don't know. I think that they could have, turned the tank line into, like, when they had Note to begin with, they could have turned the tank line into something pretty dangerous. And I think that they would have found much more success out of Color Hex and Blase. But you're still a little bit stuck, because the way that they built the team wasn't very effective for Goats or for 222. So I think that even the best coaches in the world wouldn't have been able to do too much with Boston.
I will say the best coaches in the world don't let that roster through. So
yeah, that's part of the coach, right? Is gonna, not let that happen, I guess, right? You hope so, at least. But I mean,
Krusty is certainly a very headstrong kind of person who would argue with it. But Huck might just force everything else through, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thing, right? Is ultimately this was Huck's season, Huck's roster. So, yeah, I mean, I guess we'll kind of see. We'll have to see. We need to get Mineral back on the show. Is what we need to do. We'll get Mineral back on here. Ask him, what the are you thinking? And then he'll let us know. Just like that. It's that easy, guys. It's that easy, kids. You just got to ask and you shall receive. It's interesting, though. I don't know, man. I want to see Boston do well with this kind of. I'm gonna say the term, and I don't want to see Yiska's eyes roll back.
He's gonna say the M word.
Is the kind of Moneyball mentality.
There it is. The M word.
Yeah.
Dreaded.
So
have you since gone to Bren and explained to him what Moneyball means?
Yeah, but actually the way that I saw the whole Reddit thread about that, right? It was a Reddit thread about, I think it was like Brendan's quote, and then people discussing the fact that Moneyball is always misused in the comments as well. But what Brendan didn't say, but which is also really happening, is a lot of those teams are also going hardcore into data analysis to try and find these players.
So every team has some sort of data analysis, or not every, but
a lot of the teams that are trying to do like the super team approach are doing it based on like gut instinct and like trying to find the best players and that kind of stuff. So it really only applies in a huge degree, I think, to teams that are trying to be smarter with their budgets rather than just blowing everything out of the water. the reason why Moneyball still doesn't really apply is because Moneyball was finding one stat that particularly correlated with victory, and nobody's found anything like that in Overwatch. We haven't even found a bunch of stats, at least as far as I'm aware of. Having said that, nobody would share it, right? If you found the magical stat, you wouldn't go on Twitter and be like, "Oh, guys, this correlates with winning. Pick up a bunch of players that can do this." But I just don't think that it's feasible within a short span of the game's history.
So
I will also take really quick. Also take issue with what did he say? How many people Moneyballed? I think
50 to 75% of the teams is what he was
so
saying.
my issue is the connotation for me also, or the added sense of it is also that they're not spending much, because that was the point of the initial Moneyball thing, right? Where like they could budget it because others wouldn't find those gems. And I don't think 50% to 75% of the Overwatch League teams are
John is about to lay some facts.
saving money, but they are dripping this season. Dripping money.
Yes.
It's nuts.
It does. The plans are constantly changing for different teams as well. So there've been some that have started going for like I'm going to spend a bunch of money and try and get a bunch of players, and then they can't find the players that they want, and so they have to cut back. And at that point, you might as well save, because it's just pointless trying to make like a decent team that spends you a lot of money that doesn't get anywhere. So we'll see at the end. I think, I don't know. I think there could be. I think 50% is starting to look like it'll be on the high side for teams that are going for that like low budget Moneyball approach.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say for the record, I don't totally agree with the definitions of Moneyball here. And my definition of Moneyball and my understanding in it is you are exploiting, you're essentially looking for places where you can improve for less, right? You're finding efficient ways to exploit out results. And yes, it's usually statistically driven, but it's not always. It's just really strong coaching farm systems, really strong, usually like teamworks, team mechanics, that kind of thing. It's like, we'll get a group of 6 guys who can work well together with maybe less overall skill ceiling than somebody with more. I'm not trying to say that Boston thought they found a stat and then just hired on that stat.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the term itself has kind of been perverted by the fact that so many sports fans used it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and that's why I don't even like. Yeah. But the idea is, we know that they are definitely not paying a lot of money for most of, if not all, their players and staff. We know them to be on the very low end of that there, but that's. We see this in professional sports all the time, and there's different goals for different teams. Not every team every year is looking to just win the Super Bowl, right?
Yes,
100%.
It's a viable strategy. So,
I mean, they do get draft picks for tanking in the NFL. You just get less fans for tanking in the Owl.
Even then, like you actually gain profitability by losing, because you. You spend a certain amount and you know how many tickets you're going to sell for a year, and you're like, hey, if the less we have to spend pay these players, we can break even here. It's we won't go into it. We don't have enough time to go into it today. It's complicated. Yeah.
One last thing with the Uprising, I'm interested to see when they stop kind of playing the bizarre game where they just sell everybody and they try to bring in like underdog and new talent and rookie talent. Where do they stop the buck on what person do they make their Tom Brady at? Which position, what player? Is it something that's coming in the future? Are they going to sign somebody to Uprising Academy and put them on a 2-way and really like this is our franchise guy? Are they even looking at it that way? Like I'm interested to just see how this team in particular just kind of goes into the scope of Overwatch League history and see when they decide to stop like playing the economy game and actually like trying.
I thought Note would be that guy, honestly, because he was very much a team leader figure. He was groomed specifically into that position by Huck. He's a Canadian. He's worked with him a lot. Like Huck was very much there with Note, guiding him into being a better player and making sure that he was part of that development process the entire time. Note was one of the only people keeping the Boston Uprising system working this year, and then Huck sold him to try and get someone who could also play Sombra, So I don't think that anyone's safe. I don't think there's a single person on the Boston Uprising. I just don't think that's how their mentality works at this point.
Yeah.
100%.
Let's keep going because we have a lot of these to go through.
Yes.
Spitfire making some coaching changes. Joe, I saw you making some tweets about this one. What's going on here?
Yeah. So we have Spitfire adding Twinkle, former, I believe he was the main support for BK Stars back in the day. I think he's did some coaching in PAC in general. And then they signed Awesome Guy, former main tank of Florida Mayhem and LW Blue back in the day as a coach, and Pavane. And then they move Agape to head coach. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then Pavane is coming from NYXL as a head coach and now is an assistant coach under Agape. Hopefully that's correct.
No, that's my opinion,
and that's
right?
just the coaching staff. We'll get to the player movement after we dissect the coaches so far.
Yeah.
So
As I read Pavani assistant coach, I was astral projecting, just like, oh, what is going on? Is everything I was told about NYXL's coaching a lie, and actually there's someone else totally unknown that's a master? Or was the assistant coach money that good? Or what's going on there? Like, it's really weird. Or alternatively, and that is the elephant in the room, I think, as of a question, is who is moving into the NYXL head coach position. And I think a lot of people in the community are not considering how wide-reaching that poll could potentially be.
What do you mean?
Meaning, which established coaches they could theoretically pull off their established teams just by having. Dude, I'm just like, real talk. NYXL in general are such a well-led org, at least from 100%. What we see from the outside. Seemingly everything other than potentially the XL2 messaging thing that was later found out to not be as severe as it actually sounded. Everything in that org is just squeaky clean to amazing. Right.
They have a very good ownership group that understands sports very, very well. We went and met with them just before we went to the grand finals, and they know what they're doing. Like, they're on the ball. They've got great plans for activating in New York and setting up their system there. They know how to run an organization. They're very good with their branding. They do almost everything very, very well from the top to the bottom.
Yep. I can't agree more. Like, that's the pinnacle of a team that I saw that Andy Miller made a tweet that, teams are getting very close to being profitable. And I would assume that NYXL is probably one of those teams that's getting very, very close. They've developed an incredible local fan base. They have incredible marketing. It's from top to bottom, just a very, very good org, at least from the outside looking in. We can't speculate too much on how the inner workings might go, but seems like a great business to be in.
As for the coaching changes, though, this is one of the oddest coaching changes that I've seen, and I think that it actually reveals quite a bit if you think that through, because the coach for Pavane to leave NYXL and join a London Spitfire team where he knows Profit and Gesture are not going to be there. Right? These two things don't happen without knowledge of each other. Yeah. For him to leave and join London as an assistant coach when he knows the team is going to be worse, like, I don't see a world in which London isn't going to be worse than they were last year without Profit and Gesture. That, to me, would indicate that Pavane did not choose to jump towards the London Spitfire, but was instead pushed out of the NYXL. That would be my speculation from that, because why would it, like everyone on Reddit saying, why would he do that? Why would you go and join as assistant coach under Agape? Why would you go and join the London Spitfire after they get rid of their 2-star players? I think the most likely outcome is that the NYXL respected him, but after 2 years of not quite meeting what they were capable of in the regular season when it came to the playoffs, they probably decided that they needed a change at head coach. I'm not saying that Pavane's bad at all.
Sure.
But what I am saying is there was literally the NYXL guys saying that Pavane stepped down in the playoffs this year because he didn't feel like he understood the meta that well, and they ended up succeeding. Or succeeding to a reasonable degree. Now, whoever took over that job in the playoffs and ended up actually giving them some playoff success, that's who I expect to be promoted internally.
Sure.
That would be my logical step-by-step of how NYXL running.
Do you think there's a
Did
world?
it happen in scrim chat? Coached by the other team. Can you please do this so you're a respectable opponent? So we.
But they do have some good. So here's my other speculation as well. They most recently did a piece on one of their assistant coaches within the team. I don't know whether you guys follow the social media and the stuff for all of the teams, but I tend to find that the people they want to big up within organizations, they do content pieces around just beforehand. And they just did a content piece around IMT, their assistant coach, who used to be a neuroscientist that has been doing a lot of data analysis and stuff for them. And he seems like a decent candidate for me to promote somebody internally. If they're not looking for somebody outside, and this is a big if IMT was the person that took control of the team when Pavan wanted to step down a little bit in their in the playoffs this year, I could see IMT becoming the new head coach. But there's a lot of speculation involved there.
I don't know.
I mean, that sounds not unreasonable, but am I really the only one that's thinking?
Yes.
Maybe,
I think there's two very good candidates, at least on the table, not within the team to be promoted.
Like, how do I say this and try to even more pointedly try to, without any knowledge, but couldn't it be Krusty?
No.
I don't think so. I think the San Francisco Shock would have
I don't think. Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
I don't think that matters.
I think it does matter.
That's BS.
All
There's
right,
no way that Shock wins and then lets go their head coach.
Well, even if they
It's
say
not about
the
letting
head coach,
go.
say the head coach was only on a 1-year contract or something.
Sure.
Say it's completely up to Krusty. Do you think Krusty would take that rather than have back-to-back years of potential success with a Shock squad that he already knows is capable of the championship?
What's your justification for why you think Krusty would go to NYXL? What's the thing
new
that
challenge for one.
I
don't know if you can instill the same hunger in the same place, but
so he goes from a first place team to a third place team.
I mean, a third place
Is that
team
really
without
a
him
challenge?
could be a first place team.
Put Krusty
True.
then to London, dude. Give him the lead role or whatever. Like, there's a challenge for you, Krusty.
That is a challenge.
also there are very often things just in the background of organizations that just rub people the wrong way. And if you're just getting told by the other organization, yeah, we're not doing that, you have say over X, Y, Z. Things like this have definitely happened.
Are you basing this off of
Like,
a
why-
hypothetical situation, though, where Krusty's just unhappy in San Francisco?
I mean, I don't know if he is. No idea. But I think
Was that too pointed of
the
a question?
whole-
I saw
incredibly
it.
pointed.
There's
I was
two
like,
reasons.
ow, you're poking me.
I was
There's
like,
two reasons, right? Either Pavane didn't want to and
Sure.
didn't get offered, or there was a force mightier than Pavane that pushed him out. And I don't know any other coach that in Overwatch League that could do that other than Krusty.
So
and if NYXL actually went that way and thought, you know, maybe, I don't know, tell me another coach like KDG or something.
Sure.
Like, they are smoking the dopest shit.
Yeah, there's only
If they
Krusty that you would want to
replace, but yes.
There's only Krusty who is Krusty. There is no other coach in the league that
100%.
approaches Krusty levels. And potentially, you know, if the hype around 9K and Junkbot comes true, and that, you know, the people within the Shock massively respect them and think that they could do a job as well as Krusty, then, you know, maybe we have two more. But at the moment, it's Krusty and then everybody else in the league. So I agree with you. If they're going to replace him with anybody else, then it's a very weird pick unless they were very unhappy with Pavani. But I think it's going to be internal promotion because the NYXL already have such a good system that's led them to regular season success year on year.
I don't know if they need
and-
Krusty, honestly.
It's not Rush. I can tell you guys that.
It's
Yeah.
not Rush. There you go.
I also think that when people were speculating about that, it just doesn't make sense to bring in Sparkle to this team. Like, say Rush and Sparkle are a duo package. The reason that you want Rush so much is because you want Sparkle, right, as well. And Sparkle to this team doesn't really make sense for me. He's a replacement for, like, Flowers'
basically.
position, I suppose, for, like, a very explosive flex DPS player. But at that point, you are just upending the entire structure of this team. And you already have DPS players that are capable on this roster anyway. It feels very odd to me.
Yeah.
It is a strange movement. I'm still just worried about promoting IMT. I don't know that he has, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, head coaching experience.
Oh no, but I mean, most people don't have head coaching.
True.
Coaches.
And that can definitely change. All right, you have something to say. What's up, Yiska? What do you got?
There's one monster name that we don't consider.
And I'm gonna assume that this is somebody who's at least already signed.
Coach Volamel.
No.
Runner.
I think a team will try and get Runner, but they will also try and get a lot of the players on Runaway as a whole scale
package deal. Kind of thing.
And I don't think that would be NYXL. But you know, with the report of like Mayhem and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sure a bunch of different teams like that are looking for big rebuilds will be talking to Runner, if not just to try and get him for his scouting talent and stuff like that.
Like, I think what a team could easily do is just give him GM or head coach and do that affiliated team thing with Runaway. Just have him still run that org in some capacity, even if he just tells people what to do there, which players to develop, and just give him carte blanche, because this guy definitely knows how to build talent. He has proven it over years now, and has probably one of the longest records of doing so. So,
and I mean,
if he's willing to leave Korea.
The great thing about signing Runner is that you are also kind of getting a joint package with Flauvin, who's done an incredible job at running Runaway while he's been in the army as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, pay them both, right? Don't just pay one of them and expect to get the married partner. That seems a little bit scummy. But if you do manage to get them both, they're both very talented.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's a huge PR move as well. Like, that'll top Reddit. That'll be the news of the year probably. Is
when they sit down in those Overwatch League team marketing meetings, I think the first question they ask is, how do we top Reddit this week? That's number one.
Well,
I know that's what Sideshow does.
Terrible.
Just talk to me.
His own public image, boardroom meetings, which is just
Listen,
like 3 versions of him and a bottle of wine.
It's me in a mirror. It's me in a mirror with a bottle of wine.
No clothing, by the way. No clothing mentioned or needed.
No.
Just how do we get to the top of Reddit this week, boys? just the 3 of us. Let's talk about this other one though. I think Outlaws part way with Ripa. We're gonna mention it, but I want to talk about Gladiators parting way with Ripa. I want to talk about Outlaws signing Hydration, which, just like Dante, has filled the only hole that the Houston Outlaws have in their roster.
And
makes them a top 5 team. That joke will make sense later if you haven't listened to the show for the past few months. But yes, Outlaws signing Hydration. How's this feel?
Hydration to me feels like the last shirt on the stack of shirts that you have in your cupboard. It's a pretty good shirt, but at some point you forget about it, and then you feel lazy. And
that's a German thing.
Is that just a European thing? You put shirts in a cupboard, not a closet or a dresser?
Closet, sorry.
Or a dresser.
I mean a closet. Yeah, dresser, whatever.
Okay, so
let's be honest. I just leave.
Yeah.
I just leave them in the washing basket, and when it's time to put them on,
Okay, sorry, I derailed that. Continue.
But he's at the very bottom, and then at some point you feel lazy, don't do the laundry, and you're like, oh damn, I still have hydration. Nice. So let's try that out. That's basically what my feeling about hydration is. He's in a constant super state of super flexible to people telling me he's garbage, and these people are the same people, and it's really weird that he can be held both in high regards and in low regards. To me, I think I said it somewhere in the mid-season, to me he always was exactly the middle player. You basically, if you wanted to think of how good a player is, you think, is he better than Hydration or worse? And then you knew if he was above or below average, basically.
I like, though, the Outlaws trio of Dante, Hydration, Linksa. I think they finally have a DPS trio that works for them. I think you think about Team USA. Team USA's DPS duo could have been Hydration, Dante fairly easily, like depending on what they wanted to do. Those were players that, you would have in that conversation. So the Outlaws, I think, are now in a position where they can't worry about their DPS anymore. They have everything that you would want to cover in terms of DPS. They got the player that can play the Widowmaker, and that allows Linksa to specialize a lot more and will hopefully cut down on some of his inconsistencies as well. Dante and Hydration, both hyper flexible and also very good at picking up new things and being able to master new heroes. That's a good trio of DPS, in my opinion. The problem is all the rest of their team.
I mean, we are like moving into meta and seeing how in the first couple of metas, how important DPS were. Does it not concern you that there's not a single one where you would realistically say they are top 25, top 10% player?
Wait, who? You don't think that Dante or Hydration are top 25% players?
Dante maybe.
I think that
I don't think Hydration is.
Heroes you're talking about. Like, I think if you're talking about Pharahs, like Hydration is actually a Pharah player. I think he would be probably up there in terms of the league. Top quarter.
Especially with the people coming in, I don't think I would put him there.
How many people have we even got in a DPS position? We've maybe got like 50, something like that. Yeah. So top quarter, you may be talking like top 10 Pharahs in the world. I think top 10 to top 15. Yeah. And then Dante, I mean, his Sombra's very good. He could become like a reasonably good, like a moderate tracer and various other hit scans that he hasn't played in a while. I don't know. I think you've got a stable core there. I don't think those DPS players are ever going to let you down.
Okay.
I'd be okay with that, yeah.
For Houston, they want popular players that can push them into the playoffs. Sure. They're not looking to win, right?
Sure.
They're looking to make playoff runs next year.
Yeah, sure.
I think if you're in charge of the Houston Outlaws, you have a certain amount of money that you want to spend, and you're like, how does this money take us to the playoffs next year? Because we missed out on it twice in a row. And you're like, you don't want to blow up the team because somehow this ragtag bunch of hooligans is actually nearly making playoffs each year, despite going like 0-7 in a stage.
Yeah.
There's something, I don't know what the hell it is, but there's something in the Houston Outlaws. So you don't want to completely destroy it, but you want to use your money most efficiently to be able to get to the playoffs. I think Hydration kind of fits that. I think they're still going to make two other big moves, but I think they're on their way.
Hydration,
and hopefully
for me,
they still have the money.
Hydration is for me is the answer to teams who don't know the answer to their own question. They're just like, what do we need here in DPS? Like, what do we need on our team? And you like grab a hat, you pull out you have a bunch of names in there, and you're just 80% of them are hydration.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad pulling Hydration out of a hat, but I'm also like not entirely super excited. I didn't think he had a stellar playoff performance with Gladiators. Sure. It is a little weird to see him not on the World Cup roster. Is that a personal decision? Is that a performance decision? There are questions there. But again, it's not a bad thing. I do have to agree with most of what was said. I do think this like sets them up well.
And how good a player is, unfortunately, is not the only thing that drives pickups, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. This kid can't give an answer to an interview question to save his life. Like he has.
But that's kind of endearing,
boring,
though.
Like. He still
like
owes me
leaks,
that
man.
1.5 hours of oversight I watched with him. Like, I'm still billing him for that.
It's the classic Hydration show for the two DPS in the world. It's like but they're very popular because a lot of people who watch esports, I think, are like that. They aren't the most charismatic people in the world. They don't want to be represented by Chad Lords who are, swole as Bren and shouting all the time. Well, actually, I mean, Bren is an incredible weeb as well, and his life's in ruins. So actually, that really does vibe with a lot of people. But a lot of the most popular players in the league don't have to be the cool guys. They also just get by on the fact that people see themselves in them.
Doesn't strike me as somebody who has like an abrasive personality. I think he's just going to fit into the team and just be good. Not fantastic. It's not going to lead the team, but
so much. To just wake up and I identify with Hydration, and I also identify with my double weighted blanket. Like, come on, guys, man.
It's like I'm getting a
It's a
hug.
joke. It's like,
I feel like I need to start apologizing.
I think everyone does that though. You always look at people who have found themselves in a position of success but have very notable flaws and endearing flaws. I'm not talking about like being an outrageous ball bag. Like nobody looks at people who are douches and they're like,
no,
oh, wow,
I
I'm
identify
so
as
glad that
time.
you got it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you do. Maybe you just operate on a different plane of existence. But most people, when they see people in a position of power or authority or success, and they have very noticeable flaws, it makes them reflect on themselves and be like, "Oh, I could do that. You know, I'm flawed, and I could still be successful." I think that's what endears people a lot to a lot of the Overwatch League
I would
players.
agree.
I mean, yeah, like the Fran, for instance, is a perfect example of exactly that, right?
Sure.
I want to talk about one more movement here, and then we'll get into the fun stuff. And Yiska, I don't expect you to care about this at all, but Jester and Prophet, gone from London. Gone from London. We're going to play a hypothetical game here. We're going to say, what if it was confirmed that they went to Seoul? What would that team look like?
What if?
What if? Like, just purely hypothetical. What does that team look like? Is that the move you would like to see? And I don't know. Ode
Are
to
you
Prophet,
still a Prophet fan at this point?
Of course, dude. Of course.
You just a bandwagon.
Okay, here's the thing. Like, I hope they didn't blow all their war chest on them, because that is very easily possible with the numbers I've heard.
Sure.
Right? Like, then again, they could still, and I'm sure. Like, we know the contend. Okay, we actually don't know, because there are contenders contracts here where players can take out the matching clause in their contract, and if a team approaches them, the academy host team cannot even match if the player wants to join the other team. We don't know if that is the case for Glister. Hopefully, like, come on, promote this kid. Like, that's all I want, and then get decent tanks and supports around them, and I'm okay. But like, it would be such a waste to once again have a London-esque roster assembled around them. But my hope is that the Dynasty is just like, okay, so we have to market to Koreans. We're not winning at an international stage. We're not marketing to Koreans in doing so, right? So I think there's a very good chance they are just going to mega splash.
What do you mean by a roster like London around Prophet and Gesture?
So inconsistent, undisciplined, unruly, and also just very obvious flaws, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. I think Prophet and Gesture are part of the problem. And hopefully by moving to a new home, hopefully under a very strict coach and whilst representing the whole of South Korea, these kind of things will weigh down on them and they'll actually break a little bit. Because I think their first season performance and the fact that they had never lost a major tournament up until this year was giving them more and more of a we can do it all without actually putting in the I don't want to say hard work, but like there are certain necessary things that you have to do. Like you have to respect positioning and you have to listen to a coach's structure and you have to try and, buy into a system rather than just expecting to be able to win everything because you always have won everything. Hopefully Prophet and Gesture can buy into a system like that. Otherwise, I'm worried a little bit for what Seoul Dynasty will do. But I think it'll be a very competitive team no matter what, as long as they have a decent off-tank and short caller.
Yep. I think all the things that we used to say about London with Gesture and Prophet, now you can obviously say about Seoul, barring any kind of crazy
but they shouldn't have bird ring.
That's true, so, but
you avoid the bird ring issue.
the point that I'm trying to make is that they can brute force their way through things now. They have the best duo probably in the league.
Yeah.
Two of the best players at the role, if not Prophet being the best player in the world. They can just brute force their way through metas just with their mechanical skill alone. Lest alone, we go back to Yiska's point and they promote, Glister and however else they filter out the rest of their roster. I know that they need supports now. The they're going to need some kind of shot caller at this point. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be weird. This is not something that I ever kind of assumed was going to happen. This is a very weird to see C9 spend all that money, buying Kongdu, buying GC Busan, getting the pair at their prime and then letting them go. That I think that should say a lot to the community.
It's interesting. So we do also have Jexa, who is confirmed free agent here, right? So that does change it a little bit. And thanks to Eric, who just changed that in our magical spreadsheet of wonders. So it does change it a little bit for Seoul, right?
It's kind of interesting that Jackson never arrived, really, and that they also don't have the confidence in investing in him next, because he was like said to be this amazing shot caller that every team was after last season, and it's interesting that this has not really happened, right?
I mean,
I think he's still somebody that could have a lot of success on a different team. I think that he's the kind of player that you didn't even give a chance to. Particularly, Seoul was constantly swapping around their roster, mixing and matching players. They definitely wanted to go with Jaehong, and who better to work with Jaehong than Toby, who's always worked with Toby. The system in the end produced reasonable results, but nobody ever stood out on the Seoul Dynasty, and they weren't a team like they were expecting to be, I think. But also, you look at the talent that was signed to Seoul Dynasty. I didn't understand it when they first signed people like Fitz and Illicit and Hiley. So I don't really think that the Seoul Dynasty can be considered a team where Jexa got his full experience. Like he didn't have an opportunity to reach his full potential.
Yeah. I guess the big question is, do they re-sign Toby? Do they go for somebody maybe like Arc to kind of lead the locker room? Because these players are, big personalities. Like they're going to need somebody along with, a very strict coaching staff to kind of, like you said, kind of break down the players and help remold them to be and reach their potential to be another championship roster. That's another very weird decision.
Have there been any rumors about what's happening to the Spark? It would be interesting to see them try and make a bid for IDK or something like that for sure.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows? They might also just pick directly out of contenders. The Seoul Dynasty, because they have the pleasure of representing South Korea, can basically, I think, pick from any of the contenders' talent that they want, apart from the absolute elite who will want to go wherever they want to go.
Sure.
So if they feel like they have main support that they know of, or that they've heard is very good within Korean contenders, or that people have scrimmed against and say is the new rising talent, then that could be them. On the top of my mind, though, I can't really think of anybody who I think would be better than the existing talent within the Overwatch League in the main support position. Don't know. Am I overlooking someone?
Probably,
Lee Jae-gon is kind of nutty, actually. Yeah. Yes, that's true.
The way you said that, I thought you were talking about the broadcast talent, and I checked the existing broadcast talent in the Overwatch League. It's like, all right, I would do that. Fine. Let's see it happen.
It is a shame that Bliss is 14. Bliss had a lights out performance at Gauntlet. I'm very excited to see him and Mag are like the big like free like the big free agent like rookie players that won't be of age for a few years, but definitely.
Mag is going to be available this year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
He turns 18 in June, so it would be a bit of a risk to sign him because you don't get most of the season out of him. But I actually know that some people have already been interested. I don't know whether he's got any offers, but I know that teams have pursued him.
Fun fact: I think the cutoff is the 15th of June for age. Mag turns 18 on the 11th. Therefore, coining that rule, the Mag rule.
Yeah, I keep forgetting. I always assume that he turns it after, and that's why it's called the Mag rule, because he just barely misses it. But no, he makes it. So.
His parents 18 years ago. Good work. 19 years ago, I suppose.
Well done.
Yeah.
Those October bang sessions, I guess.
Is that what it is? I like that you did the math in your head. It's wonderful.
My
actually hate
life
doing
is
that.
a living spreadsheet.
I do that constantly for other people that I meet, and it's amazing how many times it's like, your parents banged on Valentine's, or you were a birthday present. It's so often is that. It's funny. It's so funny.
Oh,
Everyone
your
should go
parents
and do
were
it.
born in August. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone should go and do it with their friends.
Jeez. Yeah, don't be weird. Be that weird guy. You'd be like, oh, that means your
When
parents
were
had
you
sex
conceived?
on.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Find the movie that came out that month. You'd be like, oh,
that's a good
Back to the
one.
Future came out, and here you are.
Your parents made love to the Titanic.
Yeah.
There we
There's
go.
at least one viewer just in these views that goes like, oh yeah, my parents must have done that. Wait, my father was in Iraq serving them.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Wait a second.
we're bringing people to some unhealthy realizations here, so we
Home
got to move
wreckers.
on. I'm really excited to discuss this. So the next part of the show,
go.
we're actually going to dedicate to reviewing our season 2 power rankings a little bit. We're going to have some fun with it. Because I mean, let's be real. Power rankings preseason, trying to predict the end of the season, are on the face of it kind of ridiculous, right? Like it's nothing more than fun and then a pat on the back if you were right. And then a big old sweltering you if you were wrong on this show anyways, because that's what's about to happen. We're going to take a look at our season 2 power rankings. We're going to have a little fun. We're going to make a little fun of each other. Then we're going to read some of, I would say, the most, how would I say this? The most confident, contrary, wrong comments. And there was almost 30 of them that were just like mean. You're just mean. And this is us calling you out and say, hey, be nicer in the future. Be more constructive with your feedback. As Jermaine once said.
Use your brain.
Sorry, can I really quickly plug in because we had Overwatch league news.
Blase.
Blase was signed to the Outlaws. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Update the spreadsheet. Let's go
5
back.
DPS now?
That is a stupid move. That's
really weird.
Why are Outlaws spending their money on getting hydration and Blase?
Yeah.
Wait.
Pagas.
I'm just getting.
That's a lot.
Hydration goes back to the bottom of the pile.
Do you think hydration goes under the Blase pile? It's like the I don't know, the lost sock at the bottom, I feel. That's such a weird move. Why would they do that?
Unless
Blase is there now in the spreadsheet for all you guys. in chat.
I feel like this fuels the fire that like Jake is like stepping away.
But you don't think that Dante and Hydration and Linksa can fill in whatever role?
Oh no, I
Jake would have
totally
been playing?
agree. But
Maybe they need a new
probably
shot
gonna-
caller. Maybe they've hired Blase for the leadership on the team. But in that case, why are you also spending money on hydration? Unless Harsha has just found a new gold mine buried beneath the Outlaws station, and he's just like, what the hell were you guys doing? Not making changes before? You had our hand for this long, and you were sat on a pile of gold. What are you guys doing? We're spending on everyone.
I can't argue with that one. That's a true from me.
I don't know. But these are odd.
Can you imagine like Benedict Cumberbatch like doing the dragon for it's just Arhan like in a VR suit just going like
Yeah.
Am I right?
How odd though
man.
to save money re-signing Boink, presumably.
Yeah.
And then to sign Hydration and Blase, who both play tank. That's really strange.
Yeah.
You know,
This is a weird one.
in Overwatch,
that's where
we
the crickets
ask
should have been
not
played.
Why? Just trust the just you got to do what the Boston fan
Trust
does.
the system.
Trust the
Yeah.
system. You just got to
They
trust
do-
the system.
They do have overlapping hero pools, though. I don't really get that move. I don't think there's anything where I would want to run a Blase Hydration DPS lineup where I wouldn't try and sub Dante into one of those slots.
Is there
Does that mean they're going to lose Dante as well? Are they trading away Dante?
I that would be kind of weird. I mean, unless you're trading up for like a tank player. And that's where I'm kind of like thinking, okay,
Possible.
is there a world where Blase is going to be their flex tank? I don't think that's even still. I don't like that move either.
Surely not.
That doesn't.
Putting hydration or Blase on tank is just a throw.
Feed and a half. Yeah.
Maybe for social media, for the brigade posts.
Do it.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yep.
I don't know. Unless there's many more moves coming for the Outlaws. Understand this one.
For sure.
Reinforce says stop sleeping on Linkser. Are we sleeping on Linkser?
Is he moving?
But what does
Like,
he
as in
mean?
he's
Stop
moving?
sleeping on Linkser. Why would Linkser be moving somewhere else? That means that then why the fuck would you do that? Because then they've got no Widowmaker play.
Yeah, they have no hit scan.
You've got no hit scan DPS. Then you're running Dante as your sole person that can play hit scan.
He goes, I don't know. I'm just trying to host the podcast.
From the
Noted.
chat.
Thanks, Reinforce. I feel great right now, by the way. I feel really good. That feels awesome.
That is very odd.
Yeah,
it is weird, isn't it? All right.
That is a strange one.
Shall we? Do we want to transition?
On to the memes.
Let's get to the memes. So last year we actually spent 4 weeks discussing basically 5 slots at a time, doing our power rankings from number 20 to number 1 before season 2 started. And then at the end of those, we brought Sideshow on the show. He revealed his about a half an hour before the show started, then came on the show and kind of gave us some clarification and justification on the on his power rankings, and we're gonna discuss them a little bit here. I apologize, it's a little small. That's what she said. The window is, so you can't quite totally see everything, but I am gonna share it here in a second in chat. So boom, there it is. It's in there in chat. People keep sharing that link if people need to say it. So first, let's we're gonna do 2 things, right? Let's just take a second to laugh about it amongst each other, because we definitely did not get these all right.
God,
no.
God,
we did not.
I think the most notable ones has to be Yiska's Chengdu.
Yes.
I mean,
they almost made playoffs, dog.
Yeah.
And they're getting leave next year.
I think
I'm so excited.
all had Spitfire top 2.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a meme.
Looking at Sideshows as well. Yep, Spitfire there. Chengdu 18. So, I mean, none of us had Chengdu very high, to be very fair. The highest we had Chengdu is 16. So,
I still think that was reasonable.
I think so too.
There are other teams that you look back on and you're like, yeah, actually, I wildly overestimated certain things. Like I thought that with London Spitfires changes and with their success that they would be more consistent this year.
Sure.
Obviously, didn't happen. But for Chengdu, I mean, that team was built so strangely, and they still found success. That to me is like a kind of a miracle season, more so than it being a something that you can look back on and readjust your.
I also need to say, any of you in chat who are like, I can't believe they said this, unless you publicly posted your rankings.
I don't want to hear it
before season 2 started. Just shut your mouth right now. Like, just shut up. Post it somewhere. I don't care where. Post it. Otherwise, your opinion doesn't count because you're a coward.
True.
You're a coward. So, yeah. Jeez, sorry. Oh, sub to the channel, by the way.
Yeah.
Sub to
be
Tactical
bullied.
Crouch.
Official bullying.
Patreon.com/Tactical Crouch. All right. What else do we need to make fun of here? So Joe, I owe you an apology.
Yeah,
LA Valiant. We roasted you pretty hard on the Valiant placing at number 11.
I mean, I went into the season kind of expecting teams to make moves, and most notably, if I can kind of put myself back in that headspace, I was very disappointed in what Fusion did and what Valiant did. Like, they didn't make any moves. They weren't bringing in new talent. Like, it was very much like the same old nonsense. And Valiant did make a push towards the end of the season to look quite good, which kind of had me a little worried looking back at the power rankings. But yeah, I feel like they have to kind of make some movement this season, or I'm going to have to kind of evaluate them the same way. I think they need some boosts, and I think they need a shot in the arm.
Sideshow, I keep looking at your power rankings, and the only one that really stands out to me is the Boston Uprising at number 11.
I mean, there's a few that stand out to me as well. The Dallas Fuel at number 8 is pretty
Fusion,
garbage.
So, all right, so I say different than ours, because we had Fusion really high as well.
Yeah.
We had Dallas really high as well. So we're all idiots.
Yeah.
On those two teams.
My thing for Boston was that, first of all, I thought that the GOATS medal would expire sometime after stage 1. So I was kind of predicting that that wouldn't dominate the entire season. But even so, I thought that their core of Gamsu, Note, and Kellex would stick together. They immediately traded away Gamsu, and then they traded away Note halfway through the season. Yeah. So I think they screwed themselves over there. And I was also assuming that they would sign another DPS player, because when I looked at that roster, it just didn't make sense. And it so obviously didn't make sense that I just assumed that it was obvious that they were going to sign another DPS player, specifically like a hitscan DPS player who would play the Zarya for them. And that didn't end up happening at all. I think the trend, though, when I look at my power ranking, is that I overvalued experience leading to consistency and certain coaches enormously. And certain coaches completely failed to develop, and their teams actually imploded. And a lot of the teams that I expected to do well because they had made development throughout 2018, they just went straight back to being as bad as they were at the beginning of 2018. So, yeah, maybe people don't learn. People don't learn, and coaches are bad, is what I'm learning from looking at this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't think they have enough time yet. I think that as we get into fully localized travel and with all that stress that comes with it, I think at some point soon we can start to justify that and say, like, okay, well, we've seen, Huck do this and we can quantify that. We've seen Krusty do this, we can quantify that. And I think those two are kind of not polar opposites, but have like very different styles. And I think we're starting to get a better, at least litmus test on where that might settle out in the grand scheme of things. I think that as we progress, I think that'll be a big measuring point to measure these teams by.
Yeah. I also think one aspect that will be fairly invisible to us as viewers will be the logistics aspects. I think GMs can actually carry next season by not screwing up visa situations and therefore forcing inferior rosters, by providing excellent travel experiences and accommodations. Not sure how much the league is helping there, or like mandating it there. And crucially, how they make it so that practice is effective.
Effective practice is going to be a big one.
Of course, the head coach has say in that, but just having the logistics all figured out and always having the gear, and having backup gear, and if a suitcase gets lost, that's not a problem. Like stuff like this. I think we will definitely see like the silent infrastructural carry performances that will also show us who the good organizations are, who have the good staff in general.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, honestly, I need to say, all three of you here with me, these power rankings are actually not too bad. Like, when you look at, and I think at Sideshow, I don't know where you ranked in like the community. Eric did like a Reddit
like
post of like a post thing, and I know Joe got like second, Yiska got like 8th. And I was like 15th. I don't know where you fell on that. I'm sure Eric will chime in a second.
Yeah, I think I did okay, but not enormously well.
Yeah, and I know that like overall we did really solid as a podcast. Like overall we should go and be like, you know what? Hey.
Yeah, I think that there's a few things here as well. I mean, when I'm looking at mine, the Atlanta Reign, I was expecting to do much worse than they did. I think it was a miraculous season for Atlanta.
I did
I knew that they had a great roster, but I thought that Dufran would screw things up enormously. And it turns out that they actually had a replacement just kind of ready to go. And Baby Bay ended up doing pretty well. I thought their comms would be a disaster. And from what I listened to the comms at the beginning of the year, it was an unholy disaster. But they managed to fix it. And I'm not really sure how they managed to fix it, but I think the two are correlated, Dufran leaving and the comms improving, honestly. And then the coaching staff as well. I don't know how much of the coaching staff was the success of the team was really on the coaching staff, but they managed to create a system that worked very nicely, and they had hungry players. Very good season from them.
So it actually looks like you. So I got the link to the final grades power rankings, and it looks like you cheated because you're on here twice.
Whoa! No, I had one that was.
You had one on stream in which you were 5th for the community.
Yeah.
And then you had one that was not on stream, and you were 22nd.
Well, which is which? Let's
for
see.
The community.
I think one of my things was full season, and the other one was stage 1. So I don't know which one was which.
I do want to say, because Reinforce is there talking about his London placement, I just got to scroll down here a little bit, zoom in.
You got to edit it to get him on.
I had to scroll down. I normally don't have to scroll down this far.
On our audit, looks like you fell below the 50% mark
Valiant,
there, Mr. Gunny.
His rank too high was Valiant at number 8. And his rank too low was the Rain at number 10.
Interesting.
No.
Also, since Dogman's in here too, he's right next to Reinforce. What's up,
Way
dude?
down at the bottom. Way down at the bottom. Oof. But I think that's how many places they were away.
Yeah.
So that's how many places. Yeah, so it was eight places off.
Yeah.
Valiant high, Rain low. Rain finished what, like 6, 7? Most people had Rain for rank too low. A good amount of people had Valiant for rank too high.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Man.
All right. Can we get to some of these comments? Can we just do it? Can we just jump right in? We're just going to go right in and get started here.
Here we go.
For the first one. By the way, I'm not going to call you out over audio if this was you. But let's take a look at this Twitter comment. Said, I haven't listened to the podcast yet, but I'm interested to see the reasoning behind the Uprising being so low. I understand that they are questionable to say the least, but I would put them at least in the top 15, if not top 12.
Well, I agreed.
Yeah. Don't know about that one.
Yeah, a little bit off.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't mean to make fun of like this person.
I would imagine it was probably more of like a structure, kind of overweighing the structure that Huck tried to provide.
Yeah.
Which I get. I get it.
They actually started the season all right, didn't they? And then when I think their first stage was pretty decent. It was like 3 and 4 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they traded away Note and went into
4 and 3. 4 and 3.
4 and 3. Not even that bad. Not even that bad.
Yeah. I remember preparing like Boston redacted comments because it was like, okay, yeah, they're gonna do it again. That's great.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. Here's the second one. Everyone still wildin' on Boston. Sigh. We're actually going to just bust out a couple of other ones for Boston, because there's a lot of them. Boston is definitely going to be higher.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Turns out they're definitely going to be lower.
You know what hurts? All these people were arguably not more off than I was about Chengdu.
People sleeping on Houston and Boston.
I mean, imagine that. Imagine thinking that.
Yeah. Oh, no, so here's one I do want to shout out from the Boston Uprising Discord. Yeah, we went deep.
We're going to war.
So we posted these And someone posted our tweet with the top 20 rankings, and they said, LOL, what? I'm playing this one. And then in SpongeBob means, you can't replace Striker. They are bad now. Essentially, there are a ton of good players that were still on the team other than Striker. Is this season 1 again? That just means we can prove them wrong again. Yep. The only thing that has changed is the DPS, and both DPS we lost were great, but still meta shift, etc. I'm really excited for season 2. It's going to be a good one.
I appreciate the passion.
Interesting.
I mean, as a fan, don't you have an obligation to be,
I suppose,
high on your team to some respect? But come on, guys.
Maybe higher than most.
Don't flame us if you're on your Discord if you're gonna flame us if we can't flame you back.
Add us, I'm in there.
I think I just lost my community role. By the way, Boston fans, for real, we're just having fun with this one here.
It's just a.
If it would have gone the other way, we would have I probably would have done
gladly eaten crow.
I would have done a really sad song and be like, Boston fans, I understand this has been a tough season for you. Listening to this show, I apologize. So I would have very well just have fun with it. Okay, it's cool. All right, those are the Boston ones. I've noticed that maybe it's easier to do this by team.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Shanghai.
Oh boy.
The fact that none of you, I don't have Chengdu in my bottom 5. Okay, Matador. The fact that none of you have Shanghai bottom 5 is a little shocking. Full power rankings to come in January. I don't think that those were ever posted, by the way.
Why in the world would you put Shanghai bottom 5?
Yeah, I felt bad putting them as low as I did, and I put them at 14th, which is bottom 7. But yeah, I mean, what was the Shanghai's issue was that they didn't really have a proper off tank, right? Because they came into the league and they only had Ding, and then Gregory was still kept on the roster. So I was a little concerned that they wouldn't have the greatest off tanks in the world, but ended up working out for them. They found a style that really fit them.
Yep.
And they brought on Envy.
Yeah. Later on in the season, but
there's
that's just
what other one? Here's a great one. Shanghai Dragons higher than Outlaws. Big.
Oh my God. How can you justify that one? That's some fan shit that I want what you're smoking, because that sounds like a beautiful
It's looking at last year's power rankings and just saying nothing's changed.
Yeah, I think they just didn't know where the players came from for the new Shanghai. I mean, Kongdi Panthera was
there's enough people out that are they just signed a great team. A lot of the core from this really good team in Contenders was just signed. This is a brand new team. There's enough of narrative out there to kind of change your opinion. This was just my head's in the sand and it's not leaving. You can't make me leave. The Houston Outlaws are just better. It's come on, you goofballs.
Okay. There's another China Dragons one.
Where at?
Okay, we don't have it in the shorts, but it's just a quick Reddit comment, and it says, "Is Shanghai that low? I think Shanghai will be 3 to 5." I mean, that is a little bit in the other direction, my dude.
That was
a bit high.
That's incredible, though. I mean, what a prescient comment, and then they go on and win stage 3. But even that's not too crazy if you really were a Korean Contenders fan. And you watched all of it, and because there was a world in which you buy into the world in which Korean Contenders is just better, as good or better than the current Owl teams. That's probably the kind of person that thought Vancouver Titans were just going to win the entire thing, and were nearly correct as well.
Yeah.
All right.
What else do we have? Any other Shanghai? Did you guys talk about the other Shanghai one?
We did the yes.
Is Shanghai that low?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's go on to Paris.
Ooh.
This one's nuts to me.
Paris Eternal absolutely have a European super team, and NYXL are really the only good example of the core working, Korean core, by the way. Spitfire picked up 2 entire teams, plus Fury and Nuss. Not a similar comparison for KDP. They had a meta that suited their players. Plus, Korea is a heavily depleted region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This never struck me as a European super team.
No.
I mean, they don't have the greatest players from Europe. The greatest players from Europe were already in the league, and then even the best available players, they didn't pick up. So, never quite understood that.
Yeah.
I think we're all fairly on the money with Paris, honestly. They performed almost exactly as we expected.
I kind of expected them to do a little bit better.
I wanted them to be
Especially
a lot higher.
votes,
I wanted them to
We
Boston me,
know
man.
why.
Shut up.
Are you ever going to let that cat out of the bag, by the way?
I've thought about asking, but no.
I mean, you don't need to ask anyone to say that.
Well, I don't want to step on any toes.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You wouldn't know.
I'll tell you after the show.
Okay.
It's literally nothing.
Yeah. We have another one for Paris Eternal. Why Eternal is rated so low? Well, I hope you know the answer to that by now. Another Paris one. I think Paris has a lot of underrated talent. LH Cloudy was one of the best tanks in Europe, and I rated Finzi ahead of RCK.
Well,
Shadowburn.
I mean, rate Finzi ahead of RCK. RCK also did not.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great year for Europe, was it?
Oh my
No.
God. I think
No.
Europe's stocks went down enormously this year.
Massively,
The stonks in the London stock market have just fallen at unbelievable levels.
Yeah.
Shadowburn is underrated. He's a mechanical beast. His playstyle just didn't work with Carpe.
Miss me. Now, I will say that I did make a public comment criticizing Esfara towards the end of the season. Esfara actually did look solid, so I'll concur there.
I think Soon as well has still shown that he's a very capable player that will always give you solid performances.
Yeah.
He's one of the only players on Paris that you could rely on to be good all the time.
Now his Zarya though.
Zarya not good. Not good.
Yeah.
But in 222 is DPS
Everything else though,
pretty decent.
I think he was one of those miracle savior children that the 222 was kind of made for. I think he's going to do better than he did last season.
Yep.
I kind of regret that this season wasn't Genji meta in some way, because I would have loved to not see Shadowburn play a single game if the coaches could be helped.
Oh, man. To finish the comment, Danya and Nico are both quite solid, and Soon is the model of consistency. Think Cruz is a beast too. Biggest question for me is their flex support. The Fuel Flame logo is shaped of an F. What? It is.
Those Paris fans can take a little more hope in 2020. Just carry that hope and ride it with you into 2020.
Yes.
Coach 9K.
Yep. Here's one of my
And
favorite.
his posse.
Tripod's such a Paris hater. Paris is actually looking really good. IMO.
To the band.
You're dabbing to clown music.
That's going in the bloopers. Somebody clip that.
That's
Amazing.
Sorry to call you out there. Volamel's on Paris' placement. Here's another one. Surprise, surprise. Doesn't know anything about the EU sing. Surprise, surprise. EU is the worst region. Surprise, surprise. Rates. I think the rest of the comment is something like rates Paris 16th or something like that.
Like, when did we ever say that EU was the worst region? I think we were all like, well, I mean, I won't speak for everybody.
So
but
I thought I remember Yiska saying this at some point. I think that this was directed at Yiska. I have said before that EU is one of my weakest regions. So I know when I've talked about Paris on the show, I'm going to be honest, guys. This is probably one of the most highest deltas for me because I just don't know the players so much. Are you boys talking shit? Yes, we're talking shit. That's the point of this episode. Yes. Yes. Go through and read the disclaimers and stuff. We're just having fun.
Just a little banter.
Yeah, Yiska said the EU was the weakest region, that they're kind of isolated.
Well, I mean, you're kind of right. I mean, to be fair, not a great year. Like you said.
My dudes, it's not getting better.
Cool. So that was Paris. Let's talk about There's a lot of Outlaws comments.
Oh,
here.
I love talking about Outlaws.
That's a good one. I'm actually shocked that we don't have like Atlanta fans at all, like trying to come at us with like some sort of crazy over prediction, because they were like another very vocal fan group.
Mostly because we left out the comments where they said you're underrating them, and we did actually, in fact, very much underrate
That's
them
true.
all.
It's very true.
That's
that is
our
true.
L.
This is one of my favorite ones with the Jake Outlaws gif and everything. Houston Outlaws, what do you have against the Outlaws? They will do so much better than what you are ranking them. With Jake going.
It's crazy to me that the Outlaws have been sold this idea that their players are very good because their team keeps overperforming, I think. Like I think the Outlaws must have something, they've found a way of meshing their team together and they all believe in the same vision and that kind of stuff. But I think it has led to some wild overestimations of these players' individual ability. I think if you literally dropped the whole of the Outlaws and made them free agents, I think half the team wouldn't have any offers, like not a single offer, which certainly says something to the expectations that people should have going into a season like this one in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep
But
going.
they do have very good synergy.
That's true.
Let's keep going here. Yeah, we had the people sleeping on Houston and Boston ones. Most underrated team 2019, LOL, go Outlaws. There you go, Perenegade. There's one of yours.
Silly.
Yeah. I mean, most underrated team was certainly the Atlanta Reign by the look of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like in terms of how we all rated them. I suppose Chengdu maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say Chengdu is probably the only one who comes
second,
close.
I would
Just
say.
because of me.
I did have them in 18th. I had them pretty far down as well.
That one was a toughie, though. Understandable, I'd say, for Chengdu.
Outlaws.
Let's see.
I don't think defend. I mean, they must be doing on the Outlaws. They must be doing something right. They go to stage playoffs and almost go to another, even in metas that were bad for them, and managed to stay mid-tier. This subreddit acts like they were the third worst team in the league.
Because they were.
Which is funny because they end up finishing, I think, third worst in the league the whole season or something. Also, not needing Bonnie on Mercy and Raucus on Zen at all times is huge.
Yeah, that didn't quite play out, but also a fairly reasonable take. I mean, a lot of the discussion around Outlaw, a tragic team, and they did go 0-7 this year, but they still managed to make, some reasonable performances.
Yeah.
They beat the Shock at times. They looked all right when they abused the Sombra, this kind of stuff. They're just a very weird team.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of room for improvement.
100%.
Let's talk about the San Francisco Shock. Shock above Gladiators. Hacks.
Yeah. Imagine. That team.
And then I think we responded. I think Yiska responded. You guys, and this person responds and goes, "You guys are sensitive to the word hack, eh? Just to be clear, I hate anyone who puts a team above my Glads. I will laugh at you guys when they dumpster the best Tracer and best Genji in the league. Are those heroes in Overwatch or I can't. I watched all of season 2. I don't remember really seeing them.
Who's the best Genji in the league? Who are they even referring? I don't even know.
I don't know.
Are they referring to Architect?
We will see superior squad in the season. Time will tell. Good luck.
Well,
I think that question's been answered.
Yeah.
Listen, I love that people will double down on their
Go for it.
And this is a thing, right? So there's like 3 segments of people. You have people who realize that at the end of the day, none of this really matters.
Yeah.
And it's just all for good fun. And like Pernegade is like, I have dozens of comments about you being a Pepega. And I'm like, of course you do. I have dozens of comments about me being a Pepega. Bring it on. I'm fine. I'm an idiot. I've said it on the show multiple times. Go ahead. But then you have some people who are like, ooh, this kind of feels bad. And then you're going to have this third section. I should maybe just turn comments off of people coming in to defend. Just don't do it, guys. I'm just going to say right now, don't do it. You don't need to. It's totally fine. we were talking ahead of time, looking into the future. We're all making fun of each other. We made fun of our Chengdu. I mean, Yiska can't even call Joe by his name. Laugh at yourself. It's okay. It's healthy for you to be able to laugh at yourself the way I laugh at Joe. Sorry, Joe. What else? Let's just keep going down the list here because we've gone through a lot.
Yeah.
Y'all gonna regret not having Seoul in top 5 LOL. Honestly, they weren't too far off.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't the worst, but it also probably wasn't the best way to look at Seoul, right?
I definitely slept on Michelle and Marvel and how good they were going to be coming into the season. I still was very worried about what Fissure was going to do with the team. Turns out, not the best teammate in the world. Stepping away. Yeah, I'll definitely take that one. I'll take an L there. I did not expect Marvel and Michelle, especially Michelle. I mean, talk about a standout performance. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, he did very well there. I think everybody that moved over from that team actually potentially outperformed expectations, because you never quite know. The Lucky Future Zenith is who I'm talking about, right? The team that was stomping through Pacific and then moved over to China and stomped them as well. You never quite know whether that means that they are a very good team within the Korean scene, or whether it just means they're wailing on a region that isn't as good. But turns out that every single player that moved on from that team was fantastic, actually.
Erster, DM, IDK, Michelle, Marvel.
Yeah. Who was the...
Lucid.
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah, it was Lucid, wasn't it?
Lucid just chilling.
Rest in peace.
We're going to take a brief break here. Blase tweeted and says, a nice, hey, goodbye, Uprising. I learned a lot. Great. Also, I'm not playing off tank, LOL. And Harsha responds and says, not up to you, buddy.
Get on, kid.
Yeah. I like that. Harsha is stamping his authority over the Outlaws very early.
Getting them quick.
Back to Brigade it is.
What else do we have here?
Philly? I see a couple Philly ones.
Oh, I think I missed Shanghai. Did you guys talk about, is Shanghai that low? I think Shanghai will be.
Yeah.
That was the one that I missed. Yeah.
Yeah, we got that.
Oh, good.
People who know Toronto know that Toronto is better. And we were high on Toronto.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, it was pretty. That was probably my biggest miss.
Where did Toronto end?
I can tell you they ended
like 16th or 17th.
17th.
That's pretty bad. Yeah, that's 4 places lower than I thought I had them. I think this team was hurt quite a lot by the fact that it was GOATs the entire time. I think that the people that built this team were not expecting that to be the dominant playstyle for a long time. That's why they picked up people like Yakpong and Ivy, who they were picking up, because the guy was an excellent Winston and because Ivy's very talented on the DPS stuff. So I think they kind of got screwed at that. I think you've also really got to look at the loss of Stella and the addition of I'm 37 and the fact that made them switch over their Brigitte and Zarya roles. And you look at that and you say, what could potentially have been for Toronto? They might have been an okay kind of, bottom to middle of the pack kind of team. Certainly not just all the way at the bottom, not having any identity, mixing in Western players, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I think they got a little unlucky this season, but not as good as we were expecting or hoping.
Yeah,
and a bit of a mess in terms of identity, like you said. Coaches stepping away, bringing in players that really are highly questionable. Like just as emergency pickups, just to field the roster. It was pretty unfortunate. Hopefully, all things considered, it seems like Defiant looking all right in the postseason. We'll see how they progress.
Let's take this one for the Valiant. Calling out specifically Volamel. Said agreed with everything except Valiant at 11. There is no way Soon was that important. I agree he was Valiant's best DPS, but do you realize the meta we are in? And Valiant has one of, if not the best, two-way tank situation with Fate and Space. there's absolutely no reason to doubt them out of the playoffs.
Right.
That's one argument that I like. The core argument is how did the team improve compared to itself? Yeah. And that is a thing. Like, I don't know how people think that overall the Overwatch League isn't improving every single year.
Yep.
And especially when the structure stays the same, right? People figure stuff out, and then they apply lessons, and then new talent comes in, and then you need less talent, whatnot. Then new expansion teams come in. Like, being the same wasn't enough.
I am going to defend my pick of LA Valiant in the top 6 here, because LA Valiant season, you look at it like this. Yeah, they came in and they had the same kind of roster that they had previously.
Okay.
But if they hadn't been crippled by internal issues, which were, kind of unknown to people outside of the interior of the team, if they hadn't had to fire their head coach and stuff like that, if they had that same setup that they had where everyone was still feeling good about themselves, then they wouldn't have had this appalling 0-8 start to the season.
Sure.
And if you remove the 0-8 start, they have something like a 70% win rate over the rest of the season. Yep. Like, that's pretty fucking good. So I think the Valiant really just, their entire reason their season blew up was because they started horribly because they hadn't fixed internal issues with the presumably Korean part of the team, although they only ended up removing Fate, I suppose. But, Fate and Moon against everybody else, if they had managed to sort this out in the offseason and even come in with an inferior main tank to Fate, then they probably do pretty well this season.
Sure.
They definitely make playoffs.
To be fair, they also had something with visa issues where they could only start practicing fairly late in comparison to the other teams.
Okay, interesting.
But yeah, I think when you look at the Valiant, I think making an argument that if you don't improve, you'll always fall behind is maybe the wrong thing to take away. Thank you. Is maybe the wrong thing to take away from it. The thing that I take away from the Valiant is use the offseason to fix any issues that came up throughout the year whatsoever. Even if they don't seem like they exist right now, make sure you go and fix them. Like, for example, the Justice, right? They had a good stage 4. Go back and fix all of those issues that people were talking about in stage 1, 2, and 3. Any drama between players, any main tank that wasn't playing as well, all of that stuff. Like, use this opportunity to fix it. Don't just think everything's going to be rosy because you did well in the end of the season.
I mean, it seems like their approach to fixing it is just like, okay, we're doing the Boston, get them out,
blow them all up. Like, I'm still very hesitant to trust that people can properly identify who are the problem children and then get them out. Like, it feels like people are there are certain teams that are very quick to get people out, and there are certain teams that are just like, oh, well, we had a birthday lunch together once, and we'll keep you around. Like, I don't really trust a lot of these orgs to be able to make the moves that need to happen. Now, with that said, I do trust that Packing 10, their head coach currently, can do that and will do that going forward. So I do like the system approach that they're going with, and I think that I'm gonna have to temper the whole, well, if you're not improving, you're losing kind of argument specifically for the Valiant, just because I do think that Packing 10 does have a good grasp on that whole roster. So I
think it also depends if other people make changes as well, right? There's whole teams like, I don't know whether Chengdu are going to make any moves next season. They've got all of their players under contract. They could pick up some new Chinese talent, but I think there's going to be a few teams that look fairly similar to what they did previously. And at some point, that might be good enough.
I also think we will, to a degree, and to a large degree, I think personally, we are going to roll the dice once again in the character creator for all these players, because there is a debuff from, admittedly, maybe over-dramatized amounts of travel, because it sounds like, you're traveling every week. You're not. You're going to stay where you are, and you can accustom to time zones and whatnot. But still, I think it's going to be even more stressful next year. And I think that will bring out make important, very different qualities in players than we previously heard. I think just like mental strength and not succumbing to the environmental factors will be a huge factor. And then I have to say, like, for instance, signing someone with like hydration makes sense because he doesn't seem to be the guy that seems faced by that. And while everyone else is crumbling under like different food, like for instance, let's say this, right? So you have Korean players that always want their cuisine catered to them, some of them, right? How do you do that on the road? Do you just go to Koreatown in all these cities?
Stock up. Get some care packages from home. I don't know. I would imagine that some of these teams have had to deal with that at some point. So they're probably just going to have that just multiplicative. Like it's just going to be a bigger scale of what they already have been doing. Granted, I guess in California you do have like a Korean hub. So maybe it's a little bit harder to travel to Europe and bring that with you.
We do have to wrap up pretty quick. There's a couple of more comments I want to run through.
Sure.
Yiska, this one's for you. Yiska is right about Chengdu. They look really weak. Also, Axiom is sick. Not known, but highly rated by other pros. Volamel is saying Boston doesn't have the star supports anymore. Statistically, AimGod is equal and even better, or even ahead of Neko. They still have Kellex and are adding LMAO. Perhaps a better Lucio than Kellex.
I don't know about that one. I'll take the L on AimGod compared to Neko because I do believe that's correct. That his stats were like pretty similar.
Sure. Sure. AimGod was slightly ahead of Neko statistically.
Yeah.
Boy just needs to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And flex support wasn't as important this season as it was in the first season of the Overwatch League.
True. I think a lot of the lessons that we even learned this season, we might have to relearn next season as well. Because we're in 2-2-2. It's a totally different scenario.
Yeah.
You come into it, we don't know what the meta shifts are going to be. It might be that you absolutely need star DPS next season, which would be maybe the first time ever in Overwatch where you absolutely need star DPS players. It's very hard to tell.
Pledge. Playoff pledge, right? Playoff pledge?
Right.
For season,
I suppose.
Yeah.
No, for this season.
I wouldn't say you needed star DPS this season.
Oh, we just lost everybody.
It's not here. Okay.
I'm back.
He's back.
Hello.
We're here.
The wind is correct.
Yeah, I think this season in the playoffs you needed Doomfist that really understood what they were doing, and a Reaper that understood the timings and stuff.
Remind me again, which role is that?
Sure, that's DPS, but it's not like last year where you had to have incredible individual mechanical skill on the two snipers. I would say that was more important for DPS.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because of okay.
I mean,
fair enough.
Baby Bay was able to do well despite feeding constantly on Reaper.
Yeah.
So I don't think
both hands.
That was true in Goats too, though.
Yeah. True.
So I do have one last comment here, and I think it sums up this last season really well. And the question is, why San Francisco is so high?
Because they have a super team. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I still find it so weird that people are like, San Francisco's going to be good. Like, have you seen these players before? Like, this team is stacked.
It's very stacked, and also we were giving a lot of credit to Krusty too, right?
Yeah.
We can't just say that it was because the roster was stacked, because there's a lot of other teams in the league that have nutty rosters, but we all bought into the idea that Krusty was an excellent coach from what we had seen on Boston and from what we'd heard from other people as well, and it turns out that was absolutely the case. So I think that wherever he is, and I'm assuming that he's going to stick with the Shock, I think they're going to do fantastic stuff again.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the proven coaches, I'd say, that I trust to do very good with basically any roster. Granted, that definitely has to play some factor in your placing, but yeah, Krusty is one of the ones I trust for sure.
It can actually not be understated how, yes, you can stack a roster. You can have all these amazing players like Spitfire, but the guys that are not playing are going to become unruly and are going to make your environments problematic. And it looked like for a second in the season, like with the striker weird Twitter thing.
Sure.
And I think he did it in a ranked game where he said he wants to switch teams or something.
Want to play for Seoul or something.
Where it's like that was the glimpse of that. But then I assume Krusty had a major deal in that.
Mm.
He was somehow able to bring back that's my assumption, to explain, Striker, you have a role in this team, and once the meta goes there, like I cannot cut that.
Yeah.
Like what should I do? Like this is the meta, we're playing that.
I've been told by the Shock people as well that right at the beginning of the season, Krusty said, listen, even though you guys are going to be on the bench, we all know the meta is going to change, and you are an integral part of our success over the course of this season. You're going to help us succeed in this meta, and then when we need to call on you for the next meta, you're going to be ready. And it just led to all of the people on the bench feeling like they were part of something bigger than just the 6 players that were going out there and playing. I think he just instilled that kind of attitude in the team really early on, and it was incredibly successul. Otherwise, you're right, star players like Striker do just get disenfranchised with the whole system. Krusty did an incredible job, and I think that's what more coaches need to do. There are like the idea about Sabiobi. Didn't Sabiobi send an interview recently that he was thinking about retiring at some point this year because he was on the bench? I mean, that's the job of the coach, to go to him and go, wake up, you moron. You still have so many more years to play this incredible game. You are a transcendent talent. Don't think about retiring just because you've been on the bench for 4 months or something. You're still going to be useful to us in many different metas, or useful on a different team. It doesn't matter if you just take a year sat out on the bench. That's the job of a coach, is to make sure that your young players don't get stuck in the short-term thinking and think, bigger picture.
Yeah.
With everything speaking of Sabiobi, everything that he's said publicly and how the players around him hold him in such high regard, I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. Like, maybe as a player, I wouldn't say his days are numbered, but that is very fleeting. But he has a very obvious transitional quality and going into and being a solid general manager, even being a very player centric coach. Like,
Miro's doing interviews.
Yeah, look at him. He's out there quizzing the people.
I will also say, once again, next year, I think glue players are even going to be more important, even if they are playing, sitting on the bench. You just need someone that's also a pro, that knows in that system what it's like to go through that, especially as a bench player, and having alongside you world-class players that are currently not playing either because of form or because of meta situations. And for a guy to just be there and just tell him, dude, like, that's what we got to do. That's our job here.
Right.
We either try to play the picks to a serviceable level. If someone gets injured, we can substitute for him. Or we're going to prepare for the eventuality that another meta comes along and we are already ahead of the curve and can immediately crush, much like this Shock did. And that is your job then. And yes, it doesn't appear as like you're not earning glory directly by doing that, but you should feel like you're doing that. You're still more like, you're definitely a part of an active team, and you should also involve yourself in the process that the team is doing in order to help the environment, in order to also provide certain normal maybe coaching duties where applicable. Maybe help someone, because rarely are skill sets, just like, for instance, okay, let's say even the best player in the world, right? Like, I can tell you, I'm pretty sure if maybe Sabiobi sits down with Striker, I'm sure there are things that he can tell him about certain blink cooldown timings on certain maps that he could improve on. Because skill sets don't overlap. It's not like an unlock thing where it's like, okay, I unlock great aiming, and then the next step is no. Like, skill sets are very dysmorphed between two players, and they can only gain from each other, right?
Yeah.
So
totally.
I think especially the 7th and 8th player next year is going to be super important in order to make this thing work on the road.
Okay, we gotta cut it here. We're just gonna be done. This is a fun show, though. This is exactly what I kind of hoped it would be. To those listening live or ranting in Discord or getting ready for their YouTube comments or whatever, I just take a step back and laugh. Okay? It's okay to take a step back, laugh. That's what today was about, is laughing at some of our really silly takes. Big show today. Sideshow, thanks for being here, by the way, man. It was
thank you very much for having me.
It's always great to have you here, dude. I'd have you on every week. I've already said it. You know,
I'm a little too busy every week, but happy to come on whenever you guys
right? Want. Are you busy? What are you doing? Speaking of,
got a lot of stuff.
What's coming? Yeah, what's coming up for you? What can you tell us about?
Okay, the biggest thing that I can tell you guys about that I'm going to start doing as soon as I stop doing this is that we have a new channel that will Casters and Castles, which is where our Dungeons and Dragons game will live. We've got a little studio here where I've bought a bunch of microphones and cameras and lights and stuff. And we're going to be running live D&D sessions out of here with, the first one's with Mika and Doa and me and Bren and Ashley, with Joe as the DM. And it's also, we're going to be doing a couple of like poker nights from there and some board game nights and stuff like that. So it's basically the channel for doing a bunch of tabletop stuff outside of esports, but utilizing entertaining esports talent. So it should be a lot of fun, and we're officially launching at 7 p.m. tonight.
I'll be definitely tuning.
And Dogman has literally just sent me a message saying, "Can I come and play D&D with you guys in the future?" So yes, absolutely.
That's dope.
That's awesome. Well, again, thanks for everything. Sideshow. You're everywhere at Sideshow Gaming, right?
Yes, that's right. If you want to check me out anyway, you got twitter.com, instagram.com/Sideshow Gaming.
Perfect. Well, let's go ahead. Yiska, what about you, man? Shout outs for the week. Where can people find you?
I just got a new device to record on, so maybe we're getting in esports walks. We will see. Depends on the weather, pretty much, if it holds up. Wanted to talk once again about framing of esports, how you can frame it as a competition against yourself and against the opponent, and how these things should be used interchangeably where applicable, and what the content around that could look like, even though it's very high effort. But yeah,
cool. And that's Yiska out everywhere, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Joe, what about you, man? What do you got coming up with?
So you can follow me on Twitter and YouTube at Volamel. Doing a couple like hot take sessions, looking at some of the moves that are being postulated on in the off season, and kind of just giving my takes on them. And that's going to be up on the YouTube, and just in general doing the writing thing. I'm working on another like alternate history. We're going to be going back and looking at GC Busan. I won't spoil too much more than just that, but yeah, GC Busan. Any Apex heads in chat, head on over, subscribe to that YouTube.
I want to see an alternate history where Krusty stays in charge of WNV Korea, and they're allowed to.
I wish that we could
the
see
Overwatch League team.
That
would be amazing.
Yeah,
love it.
That's an oldie.
As for me, you can find me everywhere at KickedTripod, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. That's also where the show is posted. YouTube.com/KickedTripod. We're also everywhere where you can find podcasts. So just type in Tactical Crouch. You're going to find it there. Twitter, Tactical_Crouch. And of course, if you like the show, want to support it, there's three really awesome ways to do that. Number one, subscribe to the show on Twitch. You're here already listening to it live. You got a Twitch Prime sub. Pop it right over there. You get some cool Tactical Crouch emotes, and we will be forever in your debt. So thank you for so many of you who have already done that already today. If you are like, you know what else you got? We've got our Patreon, patreon.com/Tactical Crouch. We do game nights every month, and we also have a Crouchers channel in the Discord, in Yiska's Discord, that's just for subs and Tactical Crouch patrons. So you can hop in there. Great conversations happening throughout the week. And also game nights. Speaking of game nights, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Pacific time, twitch.tv/KickedTripod. We'll be playing some games together. I don't think we've decided what we're going to be playing yet. Usually we start out with some Overwatch, and then we go into some other really drunk game because none of us can aim anymore. But yeah, patreon.com/Tactical Crouch. Great way to support the show. And finally, leave us 5-star iTunes review on iTunes. that's the last place to go, and that doesn't cost anything. It's free. We'll read out your username, and if the message is cool, your message on the next show, and give you a big thanks. So, yeah, that's it. That's going to do it for episode 58 of Tactical Crouch. We're not going to be doing a post show today. I'm already an hour over where I thought I was going to be. So we will see you next week, though. Next Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, twitch.tv/KickedTripod. Show will be posted shortly on all of your favorite podcast places. Sideshow, thanks again for being here. You're the man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank
you for having me on.
We're out of here. See you guys next time. Bye.
Go.